Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. John Kelly Profiler here, and welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about the witnesses. We're going to be talking about the witnesses, and we're going to be focusing on the cases of Nicola Bulley, and we're going to be focusing on the witnesses in the cases of the sad case up in Idaho. We have 4 people murdered up in Moscow, Idaho, and we're going to be looking at them, and we're going to be looking at the witnesses in the Nicola Bulley case. Both extremely sad cases. I want to send our condolences and deepest sympathies out to the friends and family of Nicola Bulley, and also to the friends and family of the 4 people that were murdered up the University of Idaho. Idaho State up in Moscow. So with that being said, I want to give a shout out at this point in time to Timmy Braun, a colleague of mine. And, you've probably heard of him in The Good Nurse. He was the investigator that arrested Charles Cullen, him and his partner, Danny Baldwin. So I want to give those guys a shout out, and I want you to know they're having various webinars, seminars, and we want to put up their website. The website's very interesting. There's a very interesting video there. If you want to take a look at it, we'll leave a link in the description. You could take a look at their website. I think you'll find it very, very interesting for a workshop by you. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Grizzly True Crime. They're excellent. We love the Grizzlies here. We can't thank them enough for all their support. And, Gisela K runs Grizzly True Crime. She does an extremely comprehensive job on just about any case, that she's entertaining at the time. And I can't talk enough about her. Okay, so we've got that out there as well. And today we're going to be looking at the witnesses. Like I said, and you're probably saying to yourself, who are the witnesses? What are we talking about? Well, in the Nicola Bulley case, guess what we have? We have Willow. Willow was a witness. Willow knows what was going on. Willow knows what happened exactly, pretty much, to Nicola Bulley. Willow was there, okay? I'm sure with Nicola, when this took place. And also, we have Murphy. Murphy was there. Murphy was there with his owner and his friend and her friend when they were murdered. Murphy, the dog, was actually in the house. So that's what we're going to get into today. And we want to really congratulate our guest today, Anne Angelo Webb. She's an animal communicator. She has given her life pretty much to animals. She works with animals all the time. She's up in Morristown, New Jersey. And the name of her business is the Animal Intuitive. Is that correct, Anne?
That's a name I have instead of it's just a name that comes up to describe me, but the Animal Intuitive, but my business name is Intuitive Touch Animal Care.
Intuitive Touch Animal Care in Morristown, New Jersey. Intuitive Touch Animal Care in Morristown, New Jersey. Say it fast 3 times. Intuitive Touch Animal Care in Morristown, New Jersey. Okay? So you guys got that. She's great. She's giving her life to animals. And I'll tell you why she's very, very interesting to me. This is a woman here who has a master's in social work. Okay? She's a clinical social worker. She's licensed in New Jersey. She decided not to follow through on a career. She also has a master's in criminal justice. She decided not to follow.
I am still a clinical social worker, but I still do have a small practice, but yeah.
She still is a clinical social worker and has a small practice, but she more or less loves to work with animals. Okay, so you got the best of both worlds. You're working with humans and you're working with, well, humans are animals in a way too. We're all in the same club, I guess. So anyway, she is a psychotherapist, and she definitely works. She's a clinician, along with being very, very much involved with animals and animal touch. So keep her in mind for anything you might need up in the Morristown or Jersey area. And also, she has a YouTube channel. What is the name of your YouTube channel?
That's the Animal Intuitive channel.
Animal Intuitive channel. I knew I had something right. One business right.
No worries.
That's her channel, Animal Intuitive channel. So let's get on with this. This is very, very interesting. We want to get on to find out about Murphy, who was with the people that were murdered up in Idaho. And we want to talk about Willow, who was with Nicola Bulley. They are really the only witnesses, when you think about it, to these murders. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting as we get into it. Also, my book, I want to bring it up, John Kelly, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of John Kelly. Okay. How I kicked drugs, became a drug counselor, then a psychotherapist and a social worker, and here I am. Okay. And a profiler today. So what we're going to focus on, and right off the hop, what I want to talk about, Murphy was in the adjoining room up in Moscow, Idaho, when his master and her friend, and I'm sure his friend, were murdered, gruesomely murdered. Okay. Now, Murphy was there. He was in the adjoining room. So I'm sure our guests are interested in this at some point, and I think there's a lot of interest in this. Would Murphy have picked up the scenting? Would Murphy have picked up the scent of the killer in Idaho?
So it's possible. As many people realize, dogs have this amazing 40 times more powerful scent receptors than us. So 12 miles away, some dogs can pick up scent. So it is possible that he picked up the scent of the person who did this.
And when he's in the room there, and his master is being stabbed to death, okay, and her friend, both of them, are being stabbed to death. I mean, what's going through his mind? I'm sure he can. First of all, could he sense the danger? Could he sense the danger coming into the house, that a stranger was actually in the house, in the room, just entering? Would there be a sense of danger? Because usually what I'm used to is dogs barking when a stranger comes into the house, dogs alerting their owners that a stranger is into the house. And the dog's sensitivity, could the dog's sensitivity and instinct pick up, severe danger, that there was a stranger there to do harm?
I definitely think it's possible that his instinct also, there are pheromones that people give off, and they've been able to test and find out through research that dogs can sort of pick up through pheromones bad intentions or anger, aggression. So it's quite possible that he was able to pick that up. Of course, we don't know for sure, but also if I believe it was Kaylee, and my prayers and my thoughts also go out to the family members and friends. But if she was intuitively picking up that something was wrong, or heard something that just wasn't quite right, like we just do as humans, that the gift of fear, we've heard it, many people have read that book by Gavin de Becker. If anything was going on with her where something wasn't right, he may have been automatically on alert, just through her. And then, my gut would say, and logically, I would say that he was picking up that things weren't right. Something was wrong, even if he didn't see anything.
So he's picking it up, and he's picking it up through instinct or through, the what's the word again? The
Well,
off that scent
both
here.
pheromones,
Pheromones. Okay.
and then also even, I don't mean to be overly graphic, but as things were progressing,
Blood,
and
the
things
smell
were,
of blood.
yeah, and also just the change in um, the human composition can change. Well, as the human
Condition.
composition
Yeah,
is
yeah,
changing,
yeah.
he may have been picking that up as well, depending on how close he was. It's hard to know exactly how much he was getting through his sense of smell, but they do pick up through scent changes in the body composition, and they can, for instance, many of us have heard about animals now are being used to pick up when people have different diseases.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
like that, but in a different situation, where something's changing in their person's body chemistry. And I would tend to think that and surmise that he knew things were not good. Something was, I'm sure, going on for him. There were alerts going on for him. I'm sure his stress levels were going up, in that situation. I'm sure he wasn't just cool and calm through the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm sure he was very upset. What do you think about him barking? Because we've heard, maybe some people have heard a dog barking, maybe not. I mean, would he be barking, this type of dog? I'm used to all dogs barking when a stranger
Mhm.
enters, but what do you
Mhm.
think? Do you
Yeah,
think he was barking, sounding an alarm?
it's quite likely that he was. Not many dogs are going to go through something like that and have somebody, just entering the home. And I mean, I know that there was reports of a lot of people coming in and out of that house, but it was also probably a quiet time at that time of the early morning hours. So I would tend to think that there was some barking, but we don't know for sure. Um, you know, if you want to just go on logic and breed base, those dogs are. He's a golden doodle. They're not like huge protection dogs. Like I have a German Shepherd, and nobody's coming in here without some barking going on.
Yeah.
But most dogs there would be something, but it's hard to know 100%, of course.
And the one thing that I'm wondering and goes through my mind, will Murphy end up being a key witness or giving any kind of key evidence? And I guess when I
Mhm.
say witness, I talk about, more or less being a silent witness, but giving evidence, because you would know this better than anybody. Murphy's DNA, what could it be? In his hair,
Mhm.
whatever you think, shedding, whatever. Talk about that. What could he leave? What could some trace evidence be that the killer picked up while being in the house from Murphy, doesn't realize he's picked it up and is carrying it around on his shirt or in
Yeah.
his pants or on his shoes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'm certainly no forensic scientist, but I mean, definitely I know that we've all seen that there's some kind of hair, the animal hair, so that they took as evidence. So it could have been his fur. I mean, certainly fur gets everywhere. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he did pick that up. And that would be wonderful if Murphy could essentially be this amazing link that helps to solve this, or to prove, if this is the right person, that this is the right person.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, can you imagine if the killer's car, and you notice I'm not naming anybody, okay, because
Hmm.
everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but
Sure.
even in the killer's car, If they search the
Hmm.
killer's car and they vacuum it and they find Murphy's hair, and when they say, "Well, how did Murphy's hair end up in your car?" I mean, what excuse do you have for that,
Yeah,
right?
there really isn't much of an excuse there unless they can somehow prove that there was some relationship before all this, which so far we're not seeing. But if there's any hair of his in that person's car, on their in their apartment, on their clothes, anything, it would really be, I'm sure, a really good thing for the prosecution. I'm sure they'd be thrilled to have that.
And again, you said, dog hair can be anywhere. It goes all over.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very, very, very easy to pick that up. Now, what about any other kind of animal DNA? For instance, if Murphy had an accident in that room and the guy stepped in it, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Sure. Yeah.
prior before, something like that. I mean, that could be on the bottom of his shoe,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I mean, we've all had animals. We all know animals have accidents. We all know, the old saying, "Oh, you stepped in it." You stepped in
Right.
it. I mean, it just happens. So that's something to take into consideration too. Can you think of any other DNA that Murphy may have had or would have been available in that apartment? Because that was not Murphy's first rodeo in that apartment. He's been there before. So, I mean, Murphy could be all over the apartment in there in the rooms. And, this guy may think, this killer may think he got out unscathed, but all it takes is a fiber. All it takes is a little piece of hair, and you're in a lot
Sure.
of trouble. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say something.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure, exactly what else there, people who are experts in that field are able to pick up. But I mean, I'm sure I'm sure he wasn't licking the perpetrator's hand or anything to the point where or their clothing. I would doubt that he got that close where there might be like saliva or anything like that.
Okay,
But
saliva too. Go
um,
ahead.
that would be probably reaching. But I think more than likely the most likely thing would be that there was hair. That would be the easiest, especially if he was just in there that one time.
Yeah.
Of course, there's things like fibers on some dog toys, like
Oh,
soft dog
okay.
toys,
Yeah.
or little jackets that our dogs wear, things like that. Maybe they'd be able to find something like that that links, but
How
I'm
about
not
how
sure.
about how about Murphy's hair on his master who was killed?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Kaylee and Maddie, I mean, could they have had fibers on them?
Well,
Hair on
that would
people?
be very likely. I mean, if they had the dog fibers, I don't know what that would necessarily. I mean, they should have dog. I mean, it would be surprising if they didn't have some kind of dog hair on them, especially Kaylee. Um, so I'm not sure that that would show anything necessarily. But of course, if the perpetrator had some kind of animal hair on him, then it ended up on them. Then that would be. But I don't think he had a pet that I am aware of. But
Now, don't
that
forget,
would be.
we're not mentioning any names, but everybody's innocent until proven guilty. We don't know who the killer is until they're proven guilty. But, and we're not mentioning any names, but, if the killer does get picked up, if he doesn't have an animal, right? Is that what you're saying? I
I don't
mean,
think so. No,
yeah,
there was
yeah.
nothing to.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And see, the other thing too, where you made a really good point, the I keep going back to hair goes all over the place, but when we talk about them, and this guy, this killer obviously thought he was slick. He's going to get them in the bedroom. He's going to get them in
Hmm.
their bed when nobody's around. But you and I both know where's the first place, or lots of times, where the dog will go jump up on you to see you and, cuddle
Hmm.
with you or play with you, is on your bed or on a bed.
Sure. Hmm.
Correct. So you have you have that dog probably has been on those beds in
Oh yeah,
that
I would think so.
apartment, you know?
Hmm.
So if this guy's in on the bed attacking, these two girls, I mean, there's a good possibility he could have gotten some hair or some trace, something off that bed, not even off them physically, you know?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Right. Hmm.
I think there's a lot here. I think there's a lot to this. And Murphy could be, the one that ends up catching the killer of his master. That'd be the
Yeah,
coolest thing in the world, right?
definitely. Especially after what he's been through,
Oh,
which is his own trauma
oh,
from this whole
I,
thing.
I,
So
I look at Murphy as the fifth victim.
yeah, yeah, I would say that because he lost his mother, which is how I look at pet
He
parents.
lost his mother.
Yeah, that's how I feel like we are moms and dads of our
Yeah.
pets. So he lost his mother. He was aware that something really awful happened on some level. Um, and just the trauma of that whole experience of going through this, like we talked about, the scent, the alertness, the stress, all of that, and then everything that went down afterward, just getting him out of there. Like who handled him? We've got strangers, um, not, the regular kind of college students that are like laughing joyously and, hanging out and having fun, but maybe law enforcement. I think he was passed
Yeah,
on to, he had to go to like animal
correct,
control.
correct.
Is that the word, animal control? But yeah, whatever. He was with
Right.
strangers essentially.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, that's a lot. And animals we know for sure do have PTSD diagnosis. That's a real thing in animals. Dogs
Yeah.
who have been at war have diagnoses of PTSD.
Mhm.
So and then just the ongoing, his whole life changed. I mean, he went from having this mom with him all the time. That was his main person, it seems like. And then, luckily he has the dad, Jack,
Mhm.
and her family, but that's wonderful that he at least he has them. But having her to lose her in that way, in such a violent and scary, I'm sure, scenario, and picking up whatever he picked up and then being handed off and going here and going there. Um, his whole world just changed in an instant. And I think of our animals as, they're almost closer to us at times than other people because they're just with us through so much of our lives. Like we can be home during the day and our whoever, spouse, roommate, friend, family member, whoever, may not be home that much and be around us. Maybe they come back at night and we see each other in the morning, goodbye. But the amount of time that animals can be with us can be a lot more, and there can be just a lot more like physical closeness. They're there, they're sharing our upsets, our tears, our joys. They often sleep next to us in bed, or they're cuddling with us on the couch, sitting with us while we're just relaxing. So his whole routine has changed, all of that. And so, I mean, my heart just goes out to him. But I am glad to see that he has a loving dad and his whole family. So I'm sure that they're addressing all of that.
Yeah, I mean that's the silver lining here, through all this insanity, And
Right.
you were telling me about the bonding that takes
Yeah.
place.
Hmm.
You're saying like, oh, his mother, and that goes back to they're your child. They become your child.
Exactly. Hmm.
So, unfortunately, when a pet passes away, it's like losing a member of the family, even a child. And, here it is where he's lost his mother. I mean, so it's really a
Yeah.
sad, sad situation, but also to, it's just what happened. And unfortunately, everybody has to, deal with it and do their grief and get through their grief and move on. I mean, and he will,
Right. He
don't,
will. And yeah, and animals tend to be very resilient. I mean, if given the
Very,
right, care afterward. But they, studies do absolutely show. I mean, we all just know this, that we're bonded to our pets, and that we know that animals will even grieve other animals that are their siblings in the home.
Mhm.
If that animal passes on, often we'll see grieving in the animal who's still with us. They might whine or kind of whimper or seek out the other one, or they just may seem depressed. They may be more agitated. Their eating might change. Those are all like signs of grief response. But we do know there's scientific evidence that animals grieve the loss of their humans and other animals. So, for sure, I'm sure he went through something. So my heart just really goes out to him and the family.
Yeah, you're really a really good person. And also,
Well,
too, before we move on to the next case, before we move on to the next case, I want to make sure I've got over every piece of this. And I want to tell our audience, please, if you have questions, let us know. Okay, you know how we work here.
sure.
One head's better than, or two heads are better than one, three heads are better than two, and 1,000 heads are better than five. So if you have any questions, any insights, please leave them in the comments. We love your comments. We love your subscriptions. Please feel free to contact us. Uh, Again, we're talking about great station you have, great channel,
Oh, thank you.
animal intuitive. I want to make sure I have it right. You
That's
say
it. The Animal Intuitive channel. Yeah.
animal
And it's on
intuitive
podcast
channel.
and
It's on podcasts
and YouTube. Yeah, you can
and
listen to it,
YouTube. It's
or
on
you can go
YouTube,
to the YouTube.
podcast, animal intuitive, great channel. Folks, if you have animals, you love animals, check her out. As you can see, she really knows her stuff. She
Yeah, and
wouldn't
the
be
nice
here.
thing is too, oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, no,
I
it's
just
okay.
I was just going to mention, if you
Right,
have an
right.
animal that has gone through any stressors, or just maybe they didn't even go through something, but you have a pet that exhibits anxiety or fear or what have you. I have a large playlist on my channel where you can go, and I have acupressure techniques I show, and massage, and other things that you might be interested in. So it's an easy way to do something for your pet, and it's free.
What's really great is it seems you really know how to de-stress an animal. Okay, get that angst out of them. Okay,
Hmm.
make them feel a little good, maybe a lot good, right? But what you're doing is you're desensitizing them to any kind of traumatic event as well, yeah, through the
Right.
course of that action. And
Hmm.
that experience is a wonderful, wonderful experience. And as I said, folks, animal intuitive, really great, really knowledgeable, and she wouldn't be here if she wasn't. Believe me. Okay, you guys know that about me. All right, so that's bottom line there. So we're moving on to Nicola Bulley now. And again, my deepest sympathies and condolences to Nicola Bulley's friends and families. I mean, this is just was a real mind bender. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm saying I think Nicola had an accident and that's how she ended up in the river. But I don't know for sure. Who knows for sure? Willow. The dog knows for sure. Willow was there running around, whatever, looking for his master. The leash was off, the harness was off. Willow was running free. Okay. I don't know of anyone that heard any barking or screaming. I like help me, that you sort of
Yeah.
usually if somebody falls or whatever, you're going to hear some kind of scream, or some dogs will not alert and bark. What do you think about that breed of dog, Nicola Bulley's dog, in
Hmm.
barking or trying to alert someone that his master was in distress?
Yes, Springer Spaniel. They're more for, I mean, they're very social, very kind of fun. You don't really think of them so much as protection dogs.
Mhm.
Not to say that any dog wouldn't be protective necessarily, but there's a funny video that has been around for a while of somebody who I want to say they were German Shepherds. They may have been Belgian Malinois, but they had a couple of dogs that you would think would be real protection dogs. And they did a test run where they had a fake burglar come over, I think it was the pool area fence or something like that. And then just to see what these dogs would do, and they did absolutely nothing. Like a lot of times dogs do have to be trained to be true protection dogs. So it would kind of surprise me that a dog like that, just seeing her and her I don't know, the pictures of her and things, you wouldn't necessarily think that she was going to go on attack if somebody did something to her mom. Um, but and they're more there to help. Those dogs are bred more for traditionally for helping hunters, so they're
Right,
helping to
right,
seek out
right, right,
birds
right,
and things like
right,
that.
right.
So yeah, not so much the protection dog type. I just wouldn't think so. And but I do have to say, I guess this is, I'm not a profiler, but these are just the thoughts I have about it, thinking about the scenario and the dog being there and everything, that if somebody was to try to do harm, they might be a little bit more concerned that the person has a dog with them, so that might lessen the likelihood of it. But also, like you said, there wasn't any reports of barking or unusual behavior in that way. So maybe people didn't hear the barking, but it seemed like there were people around. So that I can see why that's being questioned, that there could be anything more than an accident. But I don't claim to know that. But it just, you know, um, it seems like that dog didn't really make a fuss, in other words, but I don't know.
Exactly, exactly. At this stage of the game, I'm looking at an accident, waiting for the coroner's results to come back. That's what we're doing. We're kind of sitting back,
Yeah.
looking at this, because this was, kind of a pretty odd case. I know that is the Weir River,
Yeah.
um, but it looked a hell of a lot like a stream to me. I mean, I know we're talking about the current. I'm familiar with currents. I've watched that dog, her dog Willow, swim in that river at one clip. Um, so accidents happen. What can I tell you? Accidents do happen.
Yeah.
But we'll wait for the final word from the coroner and then take it from there, right? And at this point, I am believing it was an accident. I have nothing else to suggest.
Yeah. And just again, like my layman's 2 cents, but also being
Yeah.
like many people watching this, an animal, just my animals are like children to me. I would have a hard time even thinking this as a therapist and my experience in that world. Because I know the other option was perhaps she did something to herself, but it wouldn't be the first thought for me to think that somebody would not make sure the dog was secured somewhere safe if that was to happen. I mean, I would just, especially she knows that her children probably love this dog and her husband, and it just doesn't kind of seem like, I don't know for sure, but I would think that she would want to make sure the dog wasn't just randomly running around and could potentially get lost or taken. Maybe if she was going to go that route, maybe left it in the car instead, because it wasn't a hot day or anything. So that's just my thought on that.
No, well, that's an excellent thought, and I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you brought that up because it jogged my memory. I did research. I kind of deep dived into people that commit suicide with their animals present. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I came across is something called pedicide. And these
Mm-hmm.
are people that have their animal present and actually kill their animals first, pedicide, before they kill themselves. Now, the reason they usually do this is for whatever reason they believe the animal cannot go on if something happens to them. Okay, so they know they're gonna kill themselves. So they don't want to leave the animal alive and in the hands of maybe people that aren't going to treat the animal so well. Maybe the animal is older too. Maybe the animal has its own problems. Okay, a lot of these people are older and that commit this pedicide, and they feel that it's more compassionate to take the animal with them and not leave the animal in the hands of the unknown, if you will.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pedicide is a piece of it. But then as I'm looking into what are the numbers on people that kill themselves with their animals present? And it's just like you said, they probably lock their animals up somewhere and then go off on their own, whether it could be leaving them in a car or it could be leaving them at home in the house, and they go off on their own, or they have them upstairs in the house and they're downstairs. They know somebody else is going to take care of the animal if they're gone, and then they commit suicide. Well, I mean, the numbers aren't there for people that commit suicide with their animals being present. I mean, and it's not pedicide. It's not pedicide. That you're just going to kill yourself in front of your dog Willow.
Right.
I mean, it's very, very rare that you see these numbers. The percentages aren't there of people that do this. It's very, very far and few between. And especially if you're thinking about committing suicide by jumping into a river to kill yourself, because there has to be a part of you that has some fear or concern that the dog is going to jump into the river to try and save you and may kill himself or herself, right?
Right. So or even just that thinks it's fun. Hey, my person jumped in the water. Let's jump on in.
Oh, hey, come on, let's go for a swim. It's freezing. It's freezing now, but I guess mommy's going to have a good time in here, so I'll join her. I mean, what's going through an animal's mind. Okay, so that kind of has me pulled back, from the suicide part. And again, I'm looking at an accident. Now we don't, looking at going back to the river's edge. I mean, the animal's not down there at the river's edge barking. The animal's running between the bench and the gate. The bench and the gate. Now that's the information I've got. Wouldn't the animal hang around the river's edge barking like, hey, somebody get over here and help me here, somebody help me, or my master just fell in the water and freezing.
I don't think necessarily. My feeling or my thought about that is that my intuition is that if okay, so let's say she somehow ends up in the water, her mom, and then the dog is there. Well, she's just going to do what she knows. And number one, I'm not sure if that cell phone, I know that's like a big thing. People are questioning, well, how'd the cell phone get there? But say that she left it there, say that Nicola left the cell phone there. That's a piece of her with a scent that she might go back to. Also, just knowing that the gate is a coming and a going. There may have been, I give animals a ton of credit. I think that they're intelligent and they're capable of emotion, but that doesn't mean that they're always logically putting things together in the way that we might. So mom goes in the water, mom's gone. Well, okay, I'm here by myself. What do we usually do here? We go in and out of this gate. We go over this bench. Again, this was a dog who knew people there. It sounds like was very friendly and familiar with people.
like everybody knew each other.
Yeah. So she might have even picked up a scent of somebody up there on the other side of the gate, or just her pattern was they went in and out of the gate. So she was just like, is anyone here? Who's here? So I don't think, once she went in the water and was just gone, we don't even know if she could have been looking the other way when that happened and wasn't even sure that she went into the water, didn't see it happen. So that's a possibility too. But once she was in there, she may have just been like, okay, gone. And if she wasn't trained to go in and be a rescue dog pulling people out, that just wasn't her inclination, which I'm sure it wasn't. I don't think it's so far-fetched, excuse the pun, that she went back up there to the place that she's familiar with up there, and maybe just looking for somebody, just maybe looking for her mom.
All good.
Did she? Yeah.
Looking for her mom. Yes, indeed. They become their mothers.
Sadly.
Okay. Let's see now. Another question that that kind of goes around within my mind. Do you think that Willow was scared? Just scared in general, for any reason to scream? Do you think she was frightened herself? Or at what point do you think she became frightened? Or did she even become
Or did she
frightened?
even? I guess it would depend. If there was no foul play, she may have been more confused at that point. It didn't seem like it was a long time from the time that I know it seems like there was a short window that this might have, from the time this might have happened to the time somebody found her. So at that point, I don't know where I'm getting this from, like the pictures or the reports, but she doesn't seem like a typically fearful dog. Like I didn't pick that up. She seemed more like a balanced, friendly dog.
Happy-go-lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. And she got to be in these trails and fields, and that often really contributes to the mental health of animals. Like you will often find that animals get to do things like that, run around and be in nature consistently, that they're more balanced. So that wouldn't be a surprise. So she may not really have been that fearful at that point. She may just have been a little bit confused, maybe a little bit stressed out. That wouldn't surprise me if she was a little stressed at that point. Whereas mom, but I don't necessarily know that she had crossed over into being fearful or too anxious. I would not be too sure of that, but it seems like it was a pretty short time period. So maybe not. And I think the woman that put the leash on the bench knew her. I could be wrong about that, but if that's somebody she was familiar with, then that's reassuring too. Okay, hey, yep, this is someone I know.
Yeah, bottom line, we'll wait for the coroner's report, and
yeah,
sad for Willow, but she still has her daddy, right?
Right, and I guess 2 daughters, so I'm sure that's of huge comfort to them to have Willow. That's probably hugely comforting to them.
Sure, because it was the last one that was with their mother, right?
Yeah.
When her mother disappeared into the water or whatever. Again, Animal Intuitive on YouTube. I want to thank you for all these words of wisdom and for your great insights here.
Absolutely.
Also, what would you like? Is there anything you'd like to add before we break? I want you to definitely mention the name of your place in Morristown.
Yeah. Well, I work from a distance, and I also do hands-on work in people's homes within a short distance here, and all that information. I also do teach classes, and you can get downloadable courses on my website if you'd like to look into that. I also do live group classes and private classes. So that's all through my website, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com. And I should say, if you're watching this down the road, we may not be in Morristown, New Jersey. And we were kind of looking at elsewhere, but who knows? We've been saying that for a while, my husband and I. So always just check it out and see what's there. But I do a lot of distant stuff too. And I guess the only thing I would say is that please, know that just keep in mind, really treasure the time you have with your pets while you're here, and just really I really encourage people to be mindful and to stay in the present moment and take those moments that you have with your animals and really treasure them and just be present to them, because we don't know how long they have, and they're so good for us too, our health, our physical health, our mental health. So take advantage of that. Just petting them lowers our stress levels and can help lower blood pressure. So be there with them. These are stressful times, and we want to just also make sure that we're paying attention to our pets. And I'm sure many people out there, there seems to be some kind of crossover with true crime people and animals. I haven't completely made the connection, but true crime is an interest of mine, and people on my channel are true crime people, and I see them in other people's channels and chats and things like that. So I don't know. To me, it's something about truthfulness. I can't quite put my finger on it, but people that seek out the truth about things, and that's what animals are. They're so pure, and people who want the truth, people who like justice and the truth to come out. It just seems to sort of go along with being a pet person. And just one, I guess this is kind of, I'm not really sure that this applies to this situation, but it's just sort of an interesting thing to keep in mind, that animals can pick up if a person is not such a good person. So pay attention to that. And also, however, there is some question that they're really, how much of the time they're going to pick that up with someone who's truly a, quote unquote psychopath. I mean, that's not a DSM diagnosis, but it's a term that's given, because their emotions aren't quite as prevalent. They don't have these kind of up and down emotions as much.
Take my word for it, they're flat.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Good.
But that's what animals, a lot of animals are picking up in people, is those changes in brain chemistry that psychopaths we have found don't really have quite as much. So like you're saying, flat. So use your own intuition as well, and just be safe and careful. And
that's right. Be safe and careful. Brings me to the question, how do you think Murphy would act if Murphy got around, was in the vicinity, close vicinity, proximity to the killer of Kaylee and Annie, and Zan and Ethan?
I would think initially that I would be more likely to think that Murphy might have a reaction, like a stress reaction, maybe barking or avoiding or, panting, something that would indicate some kind of stress around that person. Because what we talked about, just even if they didn't see them necessarily, they may have that scent response. And that could be sort of encoded or locked in, especially from a traumatic event. However, it could also be the case that as time goes on, there may not be the memory of that, just might have kind of gone away, and they might not act differently around them. I tend to believe, of course, I'm the animal intuitive channel, so I'm a big respecter and believer in intuition that I believe animals have, of course, as well. And we know animals have instincts that have kept them around for forever. So I tend to respect that and think that there would be a reaction, but you never can know for sure.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Words of wisdom from the animal intuitive herself. Okay, Anne Angelo Webb.
Try.
Anne, thank you so much for being on today. We truly appreciate your wisdom. I truly appreciate your passion as a clinical social worker, helping all the people you do. And to add a cherry to the sundae, all the great work you do with the animals and their
Try.
owners. I mean, you help the world.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. It's just really, really
I
wonderful.
just consider myself so blessed and lucky to be able to have this to be in this world with animals, and it is a passion, and I love helping people. So they kind of go together. So I do my best. I try like everyone else, and I am, you know, I do what I can. But I, want to say thank you so much for having me. I've been watching you since you came on. I've been watching you, so it's an honor to be on here.
Thank you.
And also I really appreciate everyone who's watched this and listened through. And I hope to be in touch either here or elsewhere, somewhere on the YouTube channels or elsewhere.
Absolutely. We'll be more than happy to have you on again.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so much.
so
I'd be
much for all your
grateful.
words of wisdom. Take care and have a great day. And folks, I just want to end up by telling you all, thank you so much for all your comments. Thank you so much for all your subscriptions. Most importantly, take care of yourself. Stay safe. Make it a great day out there. And until we meet again, God bless. Thank you all.
God bless.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.